And this is
Yeah.
our final
These are
our
two
final
networks that
case
are
study.
also, yeah, these two networks are in the same family. I like that we've paired them together with really what they have in common beyond being both part of the Warner Brothers Discovery family of networks. But these are two high performing brands and frankly very forward facing brands for Warner Brothers Discovery. Believe it or not, it's ID TLC, and then not we don't track as closely HGTV and food that get a lot of share of voice and mind in the Discovery presentation outwards to the consumer. You see it on Max, you see it on Discovery Plus, you see it on the VOD. They both are female targeted. ID is a little closer to 50-50. TLC is probably a much higher skew, much higher skew, and rather successful with it. From a statistical standpoint, ID's story is a story very similar to Discovery, pretty easy to spot right away. In terms of the volume of hours, that number on the far left in blue is a little over 500 hours in 2022. It fades rather quickly to a little under 300. So we're talking about 230-hour drop over a course of a 4-year period. That's similar to what we see with Discovery Channel. It's probably reflective of a couple of things. It's still within the family of brands. It tells me that maybe it's not from an investment standpoint inside their building. They're still kind of pouring the money into Discovery and TLC as their top two distributed brands. The other thing it tells me, though, on a positive is that, ID's got legs. They've got a shelf life with the content. They've got a tremendous library that just can live forever.
Mm.
So a lot of the content that they make and produce can be used multiple times. They're running 3 nights of repeats from their library, and you're probably not seeing much fall off in delivery. And that gives them flexibility that a lot of brands don't have, that they can kind of move things in and out pretty well. We haven't seen them dip into the acquisitions front at all. They do involve themselves in co-productions on occasion, but they are few and far between. They are still really trying to get global rights, I think, on most everything. The biggest sort of shift editorially, directionally for them is, they're following sort of the leads of their viewers, is they're doing kind of some of the ripped from the headlines stories, and they're doing them in these tentpole miniseries rather effectively, really rather effectively anchoring things. And they come out about every 4 months. There'll be a 3-parter. It'll anchor a single night, one night, bam, all at once. Fantastic. And it'll be one of these things that's a very prominent stories, like Diddy was the one in the early part of the year. But even Karen Reed in the later part of the year, they've done a little less known unless you're a true crime aficionado. But these are stories that have been in the headlines quite a bit, and they kind of get in on them. And it's really where they're doing extremely well. And they're using those then to drive a regular series environment of ongoing brands, I think like 3 nights a week. The other thing that's
Yeah,
fascinating about it to me is the source of the materials. There were, over the course of this 4-year period, Arrow Media out of the UK and Lion Television, also out of the UK, are some of their biggest suppliers of content.
fascinating.
It's really a fascinating thing that the US based crime network is biggest partners are actually overseas in the UK.
And their primary target is the US viewer, not the global viewer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think their content still travels with the Discovery brand does go global, and it does travel, I think, internationally as well as Max. They become a really integral part of Max, and I'm saying this really is just somebody, again, you look at like what's in front of you and put the clues together. You can see in the top 10, trending this week on Max or trending today on Max, the ID specials are the ones that are tending to pop in there, mixed in with the more proper HBO stuff like Hacks and the Penguin, earlier in the year, and whatever else things they've got going on, and coming more from the entertainment front. What's going to be interesting, we really don't know the answer. And of course, we all know right now Warner Brothers Discovery is in a merger discussion or taking bids for sale. how it all plays out. But if the Max Discovery split does take place, how much of Discovery's content is going to remain on Max? I don't know the answer to that, but that's one of my questions. And we'll
Yeah,
see how that paradigm works.
above our pay scale.
Yeah, very much. We still got a few months before we learn more about that.
Dan, let's go to TLC, the former home, or is it still the home of Dr. Pimple Popper, just to give you a taste?
Well, it's not the home of Dr. Pimple Popper anymore. I don't know why, but she's no longer got original episodes on TLC, but I believe she has a new series on Lifetime, if I'm not mistaken. But it is still the original home of many, many, long-standing personalities. The Johnstons, the Seven Little Johnstons is sitting in there, Sister Wives, and a couple of variations of that. And then, of course, the 90 Days franchise, that we know and love with its, dozen different spinoffs and extra spinoffs. And I continue to compliment them. They really figure out how to do more with less, because at 90 Days franchise, they can do, I'm making it up right now, but they could do a 2-hour episode of 90 Day Fiance the other way. And it'll show up on a Sunday night as a premiere. It'll show up on a Monday night as a pillow talk where they do a derivation of it using the same show. It'll show up then with More to Love or something like that on a Thursday night. They're getting 3 bites at the apple for one show. And it works. They're not giving up any ground with it. I mean, that's awesome. If you're them, that's awesome. You can fill space. Their trend.
Hey, Dan, Dan, before you go on, I want to insert a personal note here. I came to the States on a 90-day fiance, and I lived here for years, and I never once imagined that you could make a TV show out of my own experience, which was incredibly dramatic. It was life-changing. I had to consult with lawyers. It was really difficult. And so I totally get it. I got it when that series launched. But here I was.
Peter, maybe we should pitch a little on the spot development here. One of the biggest trends on ABC right now is the Golden Bachelor. Maybe there's a golden 90 Day Fiance derivative that can be that we could play with. I'm sure
you never stop, Dan. You're always looking for a new angle. But let's go on and have a look at the charts. The presentation is not about me.
On the TLC story is a little bit of a mix of the 2 different stories we've seen, right? You see the increase coming early on in 22 to 23, where they had a pretty significant jump. Some of that may just be the positioning of their premieres more than anything, because they do such long-running series. These 90 Day Fiance franchises run 20, 25 episodes. And we're talking 2-hour episodes. So you're talking 40, 45 hours of content within a single franchise. So it's significant, right? And if they start one of those in December versus January, that can influence our numbers here a little bit. But what you do see in the last 2 years is clearly a little bit of a trend down, a little bit in 23, and a much more significant, numerically speaking, in 25. You're going from about a peak of 400 and a quarter down to about 3 and a quarter now. So you are seeing the economics hit TLC as well, for sure. But they haven't lost sight of the franchises that work, and that's the key.
Dan, what about new opportunities for new producers, or are the creators of these long-running series pretty well got TLC locked down?
Yeah, for TLC, let me check real quick. But for the other series, the interesting thing is, for the other brands, all the other 5 brands in there, there is still great opportunity. And TLC is not that different in that 2025 mix. Out of 25 series, 7 of them are new series, 7 as a whole, meaning season 1 again. And of those 7 new series, 2 of the 7, knowing because of baseball batting average, that would be 28%, are from new producers that they've never worked with, which actually, when you think about, for a brand that is 30 years old or more, the fact that they're still finding new people to work with is pretty impressive. So, my message to producers out there is, it's not easy. It's still rather difficult to get into all of these brands. in their own way because the costs for the brands are higher, the risks are higher, their decisions are fewer, so they've got to be careful. But there still are pathways, and it helps to know somebody for sure, but you can still get in without that direct connection. Of all the brands that we just talked about in the last year, just in 2025, what, maybe 13, 14 of those were new producers, okay, out of about 70 new series. So what is that, about 20%? You
Yep.
know, it's still not a bad thing. You know, we can talk a lot about how challenging
Well,
our world is, and it
Dan,
is.
let's go to the
But
next slide, which kind of puts a nice context on all of this.
yeah, boy, this one's a good
I
one.
did this math just before we got on air, Dan, so I hope we don't find a mathematical error. But across the six networks, I totaled up 226 titles and nearly 2,000 hours. So let's just think of the scale issue. What's the scale of a business like that? So I just took a punt at the average cost per hour, and you and I have discussed this ad forever, and it's probably higher than that, but it's probably not higher than 400 an hour. So the
Yeah.
total spend just across those six networks is nearly 600 million. It's a significant business still. I mean, everybody's wringing
Mhm.
their hands, and there's so much, so much advice about there about, find a teenager and go wrap your future around a celebrity. But still, this legacy networks business, despite all of the declines across many of the networks that your deep analysis has revealed, is still a very substantial business with new opportunities. Am I wrong?
No, you are not. No, you are not. And in fact, to add even one little anecdotal stat, if I looked at this last night, looking at 26 announced projects. Okay, these are things that the networks themselves have already announced in various places. Working off memory here, but National Geographic, I believe, has 9 projects already announced beyond 2025. Um, 6 of those are new seasons, new years, new projects, new. They're not season 2 of something. 6 of the 9 already. When you start looking at it, if that's kind of an indication of how National Geographic is continuing to sort of be accessible for new ideas, you know, that's a really good sign. And if National Geographic is a little bit of a canary in the coal mine for some of these other brands that have yet to announce a lot of their 2026 commissions, you know, I think it still bodes well for our industry out there. You know, no doubt we've got challenges as a whole and so forth. But you know, one of the things this industry does really well, and Peter, you and I have been around long enough to see the cycle, is, you know, we adapt. We get a new platform like the internet, we figure it out. We get new platforms like streamers, we figure it out. Some platforms don't work as well, some work better, but we do figure it out. And you know, the proof is in the pudding. They're still spending as a whole. I think that one of the things we need to keep an eye on is as we shift into a co-production market, and if some of these other networks, particularly in the Discovery family, begin to follow what Nat Geo has been doing with global co-productions, is you then need to make sure that you're not overwhelming your partners, because you know the German market can only co-produce so much, and the U.S. market has the biggest appetite of everybody. So the limiting
Yeah.
factor may be what the global market can accept in co-production, simply because they don't have the shelf space for it. But we haven't hit that yet.
Dan, we're kind of running out of time. I wanted to go to the next slide, which is to just put all of those charts together
Yeah, it's all
and
of them, right?
all of them. And I mean, you can see number one, steep decline. Number two, decline just in 2025. Number three, modest decline. Number four, even an increase. Number five, steep decline. Number six, very, very modest decline. It's very interesting to see them all together. And Dan, we just picked six networks. You know, you mentioned HGTV,
Mhm.
food. You know, there's so many other networks out there that we could apply this analysis to. But let's
Yeah,
go to the next slide just to wrap up.
yeah, you're right. I mean, these are the six big ones, but we do try to keep an eye on a couple of the, a number of the other nonfiction based networks. And actually, to lead you right into your slide here, we do keep some numbers. It's harder to track the numbers statistically on things like Netflix, but I will tell you, my latest track on Netflix for 2025 has about 60 projects, titles, if you will, on Netflix that I've been able to track down for 2025 alone. 60. That's comparable to any of those networks that we just outlined, if not more. The heavy percentage of those sit in the limited series, the 3x60 kind of arena, and the 2-hour feature length arena. So in addition to those legacy linear networks, streaming has also got some fantastic opportunities, which I wasn't meaning to set you up for that, but it looks like I set you
No,
up.
it's thank you, Dan. And boy, I was going to find a path too, because we've just updated our studies. Netflix 2026 has a database of nearly 1,000 Netflix acquisitions and commissions, originals, and really useful. And the database includes the production company, and for those of you that are looking to marry up. Then we've got our course, selling your documentary to Netflix, which has been a tremendous seller over the years, and really gets down to I'd say, the secrets of the pitching process. And then we have a survey, streamers and documentaries, which we update all the time. And you can find those at my store on Documentary Business. Dan, it's real. This is so fascinating, Dan, and I'm sure we could do it all over again and find out new highlights and so on. But we realize that the industry is going through challenge, but we're fundamentally optimistic about the fact that there are challenges to be taken on. We're not saying it's easy. We're not saying that if you're not in a position of advantage, if you're an outsider, it's a lot harder than an insider. But there are still opportunities there, and folks are breaking through all the time, and that's where we come to it.
Yeah,
What do you
and
think?
if I could share one very quick little anecdote that kind of it puts a real life example to that optimism that you speak of. In the last few weeks, the Discovery Channel announced a fast turnaround special on the Louvre heist with Pioneer Productions. And
Interesting.
again, kind of in the ID form, ripped from the headlines, except probably not as salacious in the subject matter, if you will. It's not murder. But Pioneer Productions, a UK company, pitches Discovery. Granted, there was probably a very strong connection there because the new CEO of Pioneer is a former Discovery commissioner, but a direct connection. Discovery, which has only done one special, in the last 2 to 3 years, they're out of the specials game, bought the show. Now, they bought it for a lot of different reasons, but again, we look to optimism. Pioneer gave it a really good shot, and they were successful in breaking through to a brand that has really been very series driven. They've been able to kind of crack the door open for a special. So there are reasons to continue to chase these brands for a lot of different things. Don't make assumptions on where they are today is where they're going to be tomorrow.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. You're a wonder, really. Love your enthusiasm, love the depths of your research, and it's always great to be on these webinars with you. So thank you, and
Yeah,
we will
thanks.
see you again soon.
Well, same to you, and happy holidays to everyone if we're not out in front of them before.
Thank you.